Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. You know, we have to stop meeting like this. But anyway, we had another productive meeting today. Just wanted to let you know that we did have participation from the mayors on the neighbor island counties. So Mayor Kinoy, Mayor Arakawa, and Mayor Carvalho was also joined us today. And we really began to talk about the challenges of homelessness all across the state, what strategies seem to be working better than others in the neighbor island communities. And I think more importantly, it was really to give us a sense of the things that, what the situation was on the neighbor islands and the things that worked and didn't work. So I think that that was a real important step for all of us to take. We also expanded the leadership team to include the other two members of the congressional delegation. So Congressman Takai and representative from Congresswoman Gabbard also participated in this afternoon's and this morning's session. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Mark and he can say a few things.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I just wanted to thank the governor and the team behind me for also extending the invitation to Tulsi Gabbard and to me and the other mayors. I think this challenge that we have in front of us, homelessness, is a multifaceted challenge, but the approaches need to be attacked and addressed at all levels of government. So this is a partnership between the counties, the state, and definitely the federal level. So I just wanted to assure the people in Hawaii that the federal delegation is here to help and to provide support. A lot of times more money in the form of federal funds and grants to the state and the counties. And the meeting today that we had downstairs earlier indicates the highest level of participation and commitment from all branches and levels of government. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Last week, I announced that we had hired Scott Morishige as the state's homeless coordinator, and I just wanted Scott to give you an update of where we are and actions taken. He is 4 days into the job, but certainly he has hit the ground running. Scott?
Thank you. I wanted to just provide an update about some of the progress that we've made. Within the past 2 weeks, working with service providers, we've seen great progress in Kaka'ako, where we've been able to move 10% of the estimated population there off the streets and into shelters. So that's 20 individuals, including 5 families and 6 single adults. And I think the way that we achieve that success is we use a model where we work in a coordinated way with the state, county, other stakeholders, as well as service providers, use assertive community outreach, working with the outreach providers contracted by the state to go into Kaka'ako, look at the data, get a better understanding of the population there. And with that increased knowledge, we were able to work with providers, move families off the streets, and at the same time, create some movement in our shelter system as well. So we were able to also move a similar amount of people out of shelter and into permanent housing. I think that's a model that we can use across our state to address encampments in other areas, not only on Oahu, but on the other islands as well. One of the things that we are looking at right now is we know that there is increased shelter capacity. There is shelter spaces available to accommodate some families. We've been able to work with service providers to identify those spaces, and we'll be able to work with other stakeholders to continue to move families off the street and into those shelter spaces. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. So I think, as I had started with including the neighbor island mayors, the real focus would be then to build similar leadership teams in every county so that we can begin to focus on the challenges that are unique to each county. And as Scott had said, most importantly, in working through in this coordinated fashion, we were able to identify and create shelter space with existing providers for families as well as individuals. So I think it's really important for you to understand that that is what is occurring, even though it might not be so visible to what you see as you drive by. There has been progress made in moving homeless from Kaka'ako into shelter. And with that, I'll introduce Mayor Caldwell, and he can give you an update. So,
Thank you, Governor. I want to thank the governor again for bringing us all together. You know, this is what, our fifth meeting maybe now, but I thought it was really fantastic that he invited all our fellow mayors to come to the meeting today. We had a Hawaii Council Mayors meeting earlier today, and at that meeting they were so happy that they've now been brought in to this approach that could be used. We've been meeting on Oahu, but now with the governor's leadership in the state, they can address homeless issues on all of our counties. And that's really important that they be part of this. And it shows the comprehensive approach the governor is taking, reaching out to the federal government. We have Mark Takai here today, and of course our state counterparts, the legislature and the city council. So it's, you know, I think we're going to see for the first time ever a full court press coordinated approach addressing the problem. Whether the homeless problem is going to be solved is another question, but I think you're going to see more things being done to make a difference for those people who are challenged with finding a home. I really appreciate Scott Morishige's report and then the emphasis by Governor Ige that there is shelter space both for families and individuals now. And if you've seen, they have found spaces for families. 10% of the people in Kaka'ako have now found places outside of that area. And because of that, and because we know there is shelter space at any given time, we are going to begin the enforcement process now in a phased approach that we've talked about. And so this coming Monday, we are going to be posting notice in an area that comprises both Cook Street and Ohe Street, Mauka Ilalo. It's that sliver of Kaka'ako Waterfront Park that goes down to Ala Moana Boulevard. On the Eva and Diamond Head side are car dealerships. So just to give you an idea, some of it's a little bit unimproved on those sidewalks and other parts have sidewalk. And it's a smaller concentration. As you know, we don't want to go into the dense part of this immediately. We want to take a phased approach working around the edges. And we are selecting this area because more of the folks there than not are individuals. And we know that there is much more shelter space on any given night for individuals. So we're going to post notice on Monday, and we will not enforce till the day after Labor Day, which is September 8th. And during that period of time, providers will be going into this area and other areas in this Mauka of Ilawa Street and letting people know that we're going to begin this phased approach, working with them to find spaces for them to move into, to get more people into shelter space so that when we actually enforce, hopefully there'll be very few people there. For those who are there, they're going to be asked to leave the areas that are the areas we're going to enforce in and to take their things. The things they don't take under a stored property ordinance, we will then gather and store for 30 days and they can come and collect it if they want it. In most cases, we find that very few people actually collect the things they leave behind. The things they leave behind are not as valuable as what they take out. And we want to give them the time. We're going to do this in the full light of day. We'll invite the press to come and watch it. We're going to make sure that people can remove everything they need. As you know, providers have made these little blue plastic pouches that people can put all their medication, IDs, those kind of things. We want to make sure we're not taking anything of value that they need to get along with their lives and get into shelter space. We're going to do it in this area first. We'll come back every day to make sure that the area we enforced in remains open and free for everyone to walk down and enjoy, and not any one group of people take over for a long period of time. Once we have control of that area and we know that people aren't going to move back, we'll do the next phase. And we'll announce with you the next phase, working with the leadership group behind me. It's going to be an agreement by the committee of the whole in a consensus way as to where to go next. And we'll learn things as we do it. If we see there's problems that come up, we're going to have to adjust and tweak it and make it better. We'll sit down with the group and see what they think. And we'll begin that process. It's going to take months to complete. But I think as a result, you're going to see a more positive impact, more people moving into shelter as opposed to just scattering. And making sure that it's done in a compassionate way, in bite sizes. And so again, I really want to thank everyone for helping us get to this point. And we'll see how it goes. And we'll be working with all of you to make sure that if there's improvements that need to be made, that we address those. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of admin updates. We are building capacity in the Department of Human Services to really be able to monitor the expansion of contracts. We are going to be posting. So for those of you who want to get involved directly, we will have a number of positions, 3 positions that has been authorized by the legislature that we will be advertising and looking to hire. So we invite you and ask for your help in making it known that we are looking for people to join the team as we move forward to place homeless in home shelters and other permanent housing. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Wanted to ask what is being done to help the homeless people who are living under bridges. We know it's been raining, it's been really pouring, especially over the last few days. Is anything being done to help them right now?
Well, we do have, and service providers are doing outreach constantly, all the time, all around the state. So clearly, as we had said before, the focus is on Kaka'ako explicitly, but the things that we learn as we work through the Kaka'ako challenge are being applied to other areas. As you may know, we did postpone enforcement by the Department of Transportation because we wanted to get better prepared, get a better assessment of shelter space all across the state and in what areas before we proceed with enforcement.
I know DOT has been kind of concerned about the weather and trying to be sensitive, kicking people out from under the viaduct, or maybe there is some shelter from the weather if they're out on the street. And I know they're trying to balance that between trying to clean up some of these slums, any direction or directive that you're getting?
We have, Ford had asked and we had asked him to postpone enforcement. So he has postponed enforcement till we could get Scott on board and start to get the programs. We will be looking at return to enforcement in those areas, I think, as we proceed through the program and as we get better with establishing emergency shelters. Mayor has his Sand Island project that will be coming on. Senator Tokuda and Representative Luke has been very helpful in identifying state parcels. So again, we continue to look at those parcels and see how we might be able to provide more emergency shelter capacity. So I think all of these things are connected. Ultimate goal is to place them in permanent supportive housing.
How many people we're talking about in the Malka or Bilalo Street in the first phase?
Well, I think that the specific number is, we do know that we have shelter space for more than 100 individuals and family members, and we do have identified shelter space that would allow us to accommodate. In addition, there are several intermediate step locations that with the help of the legislators we've identified, and we are looking at what's the requirements. Does it have access to water, power, sewer hookups, all of those kinds of things that go along with establishing an emergency shelter.
But are we
So I
looking
think
at
as
100 people that would be moving that first enforcement action? About?
No.
So in the area that the mayor had mentioned, we're going to begin enforcement. There's about an estimated 20 to 25 individuals, mainly single adults and couples, are residing in that area. So we're starting in a phased way to make sure that we do have enough shelter space to accommodate the population that's going to be impacted.
Do you guys have a timeline on when you'd like to see, the tents removed from Kaka'ako?
Well, we're continuing to, work with providers to develop our strategy. And I think we're going to continue to use the approach that we have been using, looking at the needs of people, identifying open shelter spaces and continuing to move people in, and then working in coordination with the city to continue to do enforcement in this phased way.
What did you hear from the neighbor island mayors about best practices that might be adopted here or things that did not work that might not be implemented here?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of the strategies are similar. Mayor Carvalho just talked about, he's very community focused and engaging all sectors of the community, business, faith-based organizations and nonprofits, as well as county resources. And it's very similar to what we're trying to organize on Oahu. Clearly, the organizations and the structure of the organizations are slightly different. And the challenges of the neighbor islands are very different than the challenges on Oahu, just by the sheer numbers. So, it was, for those of you who know Mayor Carvalho, he's very effervescent and positive, and I think that is, as part of what his message was, it really is that all of us working together, we can attack this challenge in a more productive and collaborative way, and really do see outcomes, positive outcomes.
Governor, if you do plan to expand the Next Step Shelter in Kaka'ako or anywhere else, let's say on OHA land, are you talking about somehow compensating OHA for that use?
I will be meeting with OHA and Kamanau Crab in the next day or so to talk about, they have some parcels in Kaka'ako specifically, but they do have other parcels that might also serve as shelters. And as you know, that a number of beneficiaries are homeless as well. So, we are looking at a wide range of opportunities to cooperate. Some would involve land, some of them would involve the existing facilities that they have on their parcels.
Governor, maybe this is a question for Scott. I don't think it was answered the way we were hoping. The flooding right now, are you guys doing anything in particular to help with it's not safe out there right now with all the flooding. Are you guys doing anything in particular to help for those people?
Well, so the state does contract nonprofit service providers to do outreach to homeless individuals. So we contract 4 providers across the island of Oahu. There's 2 that serve the urban core that include the area that you're talking about. That would be Kalihipalama Health Center and Waikiki Health. And we regularly engage with the outreach providers to communicate to them when there are needs in the community. And we work with them in a coordinated way to try and make sure that the needs of the impacted individuals are met.
But in a
Let
situation,
me just say this, we have been with all the mayors, as each storm is approaching, we do have a daily conference call involving the mayors and all of the emergency management personnel. We had one yesterday on hurricane or tropical storm Ignacio. We have literally been calling almost every other day for the past 4 weeks as the different storms have been through. And a lot of that conversation is really about what preparations are being required. As you know, county civil defense is the lead agencies when it comes to storms and storm preparations, and the state is really supporting. As you may know, we did do disaster declarations in a couple of the storms in order to pre-position federal and state assets to support county action. It's too bad Mayor Carvalho is not here, but we were prepared to deliver emergency generators to Kauai during this last storm when it looked like they would be most severely impacted. So we definitely are engaged with all of those. Red Cross is on those calls identifying when we need to open shelters and when we need to make them available. So we are coordinating on behalf of all the people of Hawaii as those storms approach, not specifically to homeless, but really about providing and identifying what services and shelters the entire community would need. Yes.
If I might just add, and this is something that I have to just double check on, but I know a couple of years ago when we were prepping for one of the hurricanes, I know we're in a particularly bad year in our community on the Windward side. I know that what has happened in the past, and I think this has happened in many communities, typically our community policing teams with HPD will go out with actually our parks people and our service providers.
Yes.
They know specifically where our homeless are camping out, especially those that are under bridges where they may be impacted by rushing water that comes down. And I've actually gone out with them and seen, they go out and tell people this is not a safe area. You need to come. The shelter here is going to open up from this time to this time. There's not going to be food or anything, but you need a place to stay that's warm, that's dry. this is where to go, but you should not be under this bridge because water is going to rush through. Get out of here. So I have seen, and many times in the past, our CPT teams in many communities here on Oahu and the service providers working with even parks to tell people, you need to come inside. You need to get out of this area. And especially on the county level, they're very aware of where our people are, and they go out and they kukua and they just kind of wrap themselves around the community. So I'm pretty sure, especially at this time while we haven't opened up emergency shelters, when the waters get rough like this, oftentimes I have seen HPD, especially the CPT team, step up to kind of go out there and make sure that they're looking out for people that tend to be in those particular areas. So, you know, I know that's something that we'll definitely check to make sure that we're looking out for people that could be in, you know, those areas that are in danger of flooding. So thank you for even asking that question, because it is something we are thinking about. It's not something that's not on the radar, but it is very important.
Yeah, we have a person missing right now, and so
Yes.
that's why it's kind of bringing it to the forefront.
It's very top of mind, but I have seen in action, you know, many of the different agencies across both city and state and nonprofit coming together to make sure that they reach out to people that oftentimes in, you know, these kind of scary times when everyone's just kind of looking out for their families and personal properties, these individuals are making sure that everyone in the community has a place to go and is not forgotten. So.
Mayor Caldwell, you had one.
I was going to add to that. Last week, I did sign a bill that was introduced by Chair Ernie Martin and Councilmember Joey Monahan, but it is now making it illegal to camp or put structures on the sides of any streams or canals that are on city property. And it was designed particularly for Kapalama Canal, but it also applies to other streams where there's city property abutting the water. And it was for this very reason that we just saw. We have those who don't have homes that seek shelter. They choose the sides of banks of rivers and canals, and sometimes even under bridges. We do know where a lot of them are, but we don't know where everyone is. That's the hard part here. And the police are now enforcing this law, and it is making a difference. But they can't be everywhere. And particularly during heavy rain events, there's huge traffic problems too, and we ask them to be out there on the streets and roads to make sure people get home safely. So we are concerned about it. I think this is a good example of why this bill is a good bill. And I thank the council for passing it. And we do the best we can. As Senator Takuda said, every time, and the governor, when we have a hurricane approaching, most people, you would think we'd be worrying about the people who pay taxes, but those that are homeless, top of mind. What do we do about the guys in Kakaka? We actually have plans in place where you can take buses down there if a hurricane was coming with strong winds, because those shelters are so flimsy. And we have shelter space identified where they can go. We have shelter space identified where they can go with their pets. So it's something that we do, but that we are concerned about and have plans in place. But unfortunately, this tragic event of somewhere along Nuuanu Stream, you know, is something we didn't know probably the homeless were there. But I like the fact you guys are covering it, and I'm hoping, if nothing else, residents who see encampments during this type of event will call us, call HB, call 911 and let us know. And if we can enforce under the city properties, we will do so. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, regarding September 8th, you had said previously that you were going to get the agreement of private landowners to block off their property so that homeless people just couldn't stand there and watch the street. Have you gotten those assurances?
Yes, and so Dan, that's a good question. I forgot to mention it. So the area that we've selected to start this phased enforcement is an area where we worked with the landowners and those who are leasing from the landowners. For the most part, it's Kamehameha Schools, Bishop Estate, but you have Cutter also there, and both of them agreed to work with us. They'll be posting no trespass notices. They'll make sure that folks can't move on to their property. And if they do, they'll enforce trespass, and the police will be there to help them with that, so that we have a positive impact in this area. And we're just not moving them from one boundary across to another boundary. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think just one more thing on the enforcement. Really, the idea then is Scott has been working with the service providers, and they will be going into these areas to make contact, to offer them to move into a shelter that we've identified where there is space available. So and that's the first step prior to any enforcement. We will be providing notice and then offering them space in an existing shelter. So that's the game plan.
I've been to several of these news conferences over the past years about homeless and what everyone plans to do, with agencies and providers standing there saying that they have help, they have shelter. And yet, we're still here today with Kaka'ako like that. What's going to be different from then till now? Why will the people go to shelters instead of going across the street this time?
No, I mean, it's the same. We've been saying consistently that this is not a challenge that will disappear quickly. There's 5,000 at the last time of day count, 5,000 homeless persons all across the state. About 2,500 of them are in shelters or in some kind of housing, and the other half is unsheltered and on the streets. And so we will continue. I think the most important part is, as we will continue, as long as there are homeless people in our communities, to work to get them in some emergency shelter first and work to get them placed in permanent supportive housing. That's the objective, to get all 5,000 members. We are focused in a priority fashion, looking at the chronically homeless first. Obviously, in Kaka'ako, we are concerned about families, and we now feel pretty comfortable that we have spaces for families, and that's why we're moving enforcement.
Can I ask if there's any other development with the maintenance shed there in Kaka'ako? I know some of the lawmakers toured that site and
Yes.
were considering.
So I mean,
that.
we continue to work to what the specific details are. There are a number of sites that we are looking at, and it's we have to identify sewer hookups, water, power, to make sure. They've done a lot of investigation and identified portables from California that we're considering purchasing as kind of a quick one. Chairs Luke and Tokuda have identified 5 portables that are immediately available, and so we are looking at what's the best siting for those portables, and where we can get water, sewer, electricity hookups to provide shelters as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.